and his family has been sharing photos with us of him in the hospital. He is still in the hospital, by the way, but this was right after it happened. He suffered an orbital fracture, a neck fracture, and also a brain bleed.
Welcome back to We the People University. My name is Abaya Israel, former police officer and former sheriff's deputy. So I'm sure a lot of you guys by now have seen where the Oklahoma City police officer violently took an elderly Vietnamese man to the ground and arrested him. Now, there's a lot of videos that cover this and they talk about the case law and what the officer did wrong. And I agree with every one of those videos that brought out their information, but I want to add just a bit more information from a law enforcement officer's point of view as a former police officer. Why did this police officer feel that it was okay to take this elderly man to the ground in the form that he did? It goes back to the academy and what we were trained as law enforcement officers. I also want to give you guys the update because there is an update to this case and a charge has been filed against this police officer. But for those of you who may not have seen this video, let's walk through it. Let's talk about what made this officer think it was okay. We know it was a violation of the law. We know that there's case law that has been passed and this guy should be locked up. We know that. Let's look at it from a law enforcement officer's perspective and show why the law enforcement officer's perspective and what we are taught is so dangerous. Let's check out this video again, and I'm going to point a couple things out to you. Let's check this out.
You're supposed to be as far to that corner as possible, okay?
Yes, that is, they have another car in front of her. That's why, you know, I cannot parking behind her.
Okay, well, you are required to go as far away between, you're not supposed to be between any cars. You're supposed to be against that curb line, okay? I need you to sign with your finger. It's not an admission of guilt. You're just signing saying you'll take care of the citation for a ticket. You're promising saying that you'll take care of it at a later date, whether that be in court or if you take care of it outside of court.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So I'm writing and issuing you a citation for improper U-turn. Yes, sir.
Citation, she hitting me and I got the citation.
I'm not writing a ticket for her hitting you, okay?
No, she hitting me. You see the...
I'm not writing a ticket.
You see the evidence? No.
Okay. I don't think that you're understanding what I'm saying here, okay?
I understanding. I told you. The car, the front of her can her to the and she didn't turn.
Whenever you make a U-turn,
I didn't make a U-turn.
Sorry. Let me clarify, okay? Yeah. Whenever you enter a little intersection thing like that, you are not allowed to go side by side next to a car. Okay? You have to go behind vehicles.
Hey, you are the police.
Yes.
So you know.
Okay.
How many cars?
We are done, sir. No, we're done arguing about this. Okay. We are not We are not arguing about this. Okay.
I want to show you.
We argue in court. We argue in court.
You take the phone and.
We argue in court.
No,
we don't argue on the side of the road. We argue in court. Yes, that's how it works. Because if not, if you don't sign this, you go to jail.
Now, as other channels have pointed out, it's extremely suspicious why he was asking the elderly man to sign his citation, but the other woman who he also gave a citation to, he did not require her to sign. And for you guys out there who believe that you do not have to sign a citation, be careful with that, because he can, or she can, the police officer can place you under arrest for failing to sign a citation. The department I worked for, we had a policy that stated if a driver refused to sign a citation, we would simply write refuse to sign. We did not arrest anyone for it, but every police department is not the same.
Sure, to go after or take care of it?
Yeah, just call the insurance, give them the case number.
Thank you, sir. I'm so sorry.
Wonderful thing.
Go ahead.
Can you roll me another unit? I got this guy up here and a supervisor. He's refusing to sign a ticket, and he's wanting to go to jail.
happen. We stay here waiting for go through here. We're not U-turn.
Okay,
We're waiting to
it doesn't
go
matter
here.
about a U-turn or what. That lane,
And I
you
heard
can't.
she bit us, she hit us.
I understand that, but you're not. You see where that car's at? Whenever you enter that area, that's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to leave any space at all.
But
You're not
we
supposed to
don't
leave any space at
go
all.
straight.
You see that two car?
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do.
I am the
The
third
way
car.
where
I'm the
your
third
vehicle
car.
was located, your
Third
vehicle
car.
was not like that.
Sit down.
No, not like that.
Sit down.
No.
And here's where we're going to look at the police officer's perspective. We're going to talk about Graham v. Connor as well. So we all know this, that the court says that the officer's use of force must be reasonable. And what reasonable is what the officer believes is reasonable at the time in the situation, not on what seems right after the fact. Also, they look at it from the officer's perspective. The decision to use force viewed from the perspective of a reasonable officer at the scene, because they feel that officers have to make split-second decisions. There's no 20/20 hindsight. The court doesn't judge officers with the benefit of hindsight. Instead, it focuses on what the officer knew or reasonably believed at the moment during the incident. The courts also consider the circumstances. How serious was the crime? Whether the suspect posed an immediate threat to their safety, whether the suspect was resisting or trying to flee. Now, here's the problem with the academy. Let's talk about how the officers were trained. How were we trained? Well, how serious was the crime? That's one thing that the courts look at. In the academy, we were told if anyone ever touched you, put their hands on you, you take them to the ground immediately. That's why you see what you see in this video. Remember, the courts also look at whether the suspect posed an immediate threat to the officer's safety. Well, yes, he did, because he put his hands on the officer. Now, in reality, we all know that this elderly man posed zero threat to this officer, but in the mind of the officer, he posed an immediate threat, and that's why he took him to the ground. And finally, the court looks at whether, hey, the suspect was resisting or trying to flee. In the mind of the officer, he's doing both. After he puts his hand on me as a police officer, he's going to the ground. He is resisting. Automatically, you're under arrest in the mind of the officer. You're attacking me, and now you're going to the ground. This is the training that we receive in the academy. I remember being inside of a racetrack gas station, and there was an elderly man who was asking, was I wearing my vest? He knew my chief, and he said, "Officer, are you wearing your vest?" And I told him I always wear my vest. He said, "Yeah, you better, because I know the chief." He wasn't an aggressive elderly man, but he did the same exact thing this elderly man did in this video. He took the back of his hand and he tapped it on my chest. I did not take that as an immediate threat. This was not an immediate threat. If you ask me, is something elderly men do? I don't know, but that's not an immediate threat. A frail old man tapping me on my chest where I'm wearing a vest with the back of his hand, with his fingertips, is not an immediate threat, but this is what's taught in the academy. Now that we know and already have known that police officers are just psychos, let's look at the update. What happened because of this? Let's check this out.
Knocking him unconscious.
We have been following this story now for months after the victim's family first spoke out in October.
Well, the DA, like you mentioned, the district attorney here in Oklahoma County, Vicky Behena, says that they are moving forward with charges, saying after evaluating the law and this case, they determined the officer's action were, quote, an unreasonable use of force. Now, you might remember this body cam video. We first showed it to you last month. What you're seeing here is Sergeant Joseph Gibson's point of view. We also saw this. This is surveillance video from a nearby business. Sergeant Gibson was called out to a non-injury crash involving Lick Vu in October. In the video, you can hear the back and forth between the two. I know this video is hard to see before Vu was taken to the ground.
That's what you're supposed to do.
I am the
The way where your vehicle was located, your vehicle was not like that.
Sit down.
No.
You sit up.
and his family has been sharing photos with us of him in the hospital. He is still in the hospital, by the way, but this was right after it happened. He suffered an orbital fracture, a neck fracture, and also a brain bleed. The victim remains in the hospital tonight. The Oklahoma City Police Department telling KOCO that they just want to stick by their original statement back in November. That was, quote, "The Oklahoma City Police Department is dedicated to transparency and accountability. We want our community to know that this case is being thoroughly investigated." Now, Sergeant Gibson remains on leave tonight. If convicted of this felony assault, the DA says the punishment could be up to 5 years in prison. Guys, that big development today, the officer charged with felony assault in that incident.
So to add insult to injury, if the officer is convicted of this crime, he would only receive 5 years in prison. The totality of the circumstances, knowing that this is a frail old man and knowing that you're taking him down to the ground as hard as you slammed his head on pavement. I'm surprised that this elderly man is still alive. This is more to me like attempted murder, manslaughter at the very least. 5 years is not enough time for what he did. And again, this should go back to all the academies. We need to have courts start to look at what's being taught in the academies because, as I stated before, the reason he took this elderly man to the ground in the way that he did was because in the academy, we are taught if anyone puts their hands on you, you take them down and you take them down hard. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of officers. There are some who have a problem with that teaching and can look past that teaching and understand that that's not the answer for every situation, but that's what's taught. So as we see, this man is still in the hospital, suffering from his injuries. He's recovering, but he's still there. He suffered serious injuries, and the officer is only facing 5 years in prison. Well, if there's any further updates to this story, I'll try and keep you guys updated, keep my eyes out for it. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lawsuit following this at some point. This is why cameras are so important when dealing with law enforcement. Always record the police, and as I always say, make sure you know your rights. With that being said, We the People University, signing off. Be sure to visit WeThePeopleUniversity.com, where you can find our latest YouTube videos, more about myself, why I left the police department, merch, and more. If you have a police encounter that you would like highlighted, visit our website and click the Submit Videos tab. Fill out the video form submission so that we can hold these tyrants accountable. And if you guys still haven't purchased my book, Living in the World of Tyranny, you can do so at WeThePeopleUniversity.com by clicking digital copy to read it right on your phone, or you can buy the hard copy or the paperback directly from Amazon. Also, be sure to pick up your free ebook to give you tips and tricks on how to deal with cops when you encounter them. And for those of you who are still trying to learn your basic rights, register for our course to learn how to deal with police so that your rights are not violated when you encounter cops. All this and more at WeThePeopleUniversity.com.